Hey guys, the following is an interview with Justin Taylor. Justin is the creator of Hyperbrew, an agency that creates custom Adobe plugins for video editing teams. Justin is also a 10x developer and has helped me a lot with my plugin, Simple YouTube Downloader. Um, so yeah, thank you to Justin for taking the time to sit down with me and talk about his development work and his experience. It was really insightful and fun for me, so thank you. All right, enjoy the interview. Just do like React development, web dev
Okay.
stuff right now. As far as like the Premiere stuff goes, yeah,
hmm
I got into that because I use Premiere, and then
Okay.
I released like some Chrome extensions before, so I just kind of like
Yeah.
I don't know, I thought it would be cool to release an Adobe extension.
Nice.
But yeah, so I guess I also have some questions for you too that I prepared.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, are you from San Francisco or where did you go to high school?
No, I'm from San Diego County, actually. So yeah, that's where I grew up for a short time in Orange County, and then most of my childhood was in San Diego. And so I've moved different places, Riverside and Orange County, and worked in LA for a while, but now I'm back in San Diego with next to friends and family and stuff. So yeah.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, how were you always interested in programming or how did you get into that?
No, actually, yeah, I was really interested in film production, I always wanted to make movies, be a part of any of the kind of filmmaking process. So yeah, I went to school for film production and all that stuff. That was kind of, my dream for the longest time, and got my first work out of school was, doing, ads and video commercials and all sorts of video production and stuff. But yeah, the programming stuff was kind of like something I may have dabbled with like here and there. But it wasn't until it started relating to my own workflows that I really started kind of, taking them more seriously and stuff, and seeing like how that can, you can kind of leverage both skills, both the technical to then fuel your creative and, help you work faster, achieve new things you couldn't do before, and that sort of thing. So yeah.
So you basically started building plugins for yourself then to help with your
Ye-
editing?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was like the first job out of college I got was like, a job that I was shooting and editing a lot of ads for aftermarket car companies. So that's mostly like wheel companies and people making like aftermarket parts for cars. But we had this like one massive project that was shooting these wheels on like a 360 table, and we would just have like dozens and dozens of products come in every single week. So it was one of those projects that, not the most exciting, lots of like repetitive stuff, the same clicks over and over again, importing assets, renaming sequences, setting up the edit, exporting the same types of files.
Sure.
So that was the one that kind of got me interested in like automation for this, because I was like, okay, is there a better way to like, make my life a little less, dull in this sense of every time I have to plug away this project? So yeah, started doing some of the macro stuff, how you can just automate like keyboard shortcuts and whatnot. You're like, okay, I can do this keyboard shortcut for Premiere and then do Command Shift, whatever, and you can kind of build these things over time. But it's not a great experience, and there's limits to doing that sort of thing. So then that's when I learned about CP and building extensions for Premiere Pro, and that all that entails. So that was kind of, out for my own workflow, for my own sake. I was like, I want to make my own workflow better. Started being interested in building the plugins that, is now my full-time job and passion and everything. So yeah.
Yeah. So you created Hyperbrew, right? Um
Yes.
so then you work on that full time then?
I do. Yeah. Yeah. For a while it was something I started on the side, as a side project, while I was working in either, video production, editing, animation. And then I just kind of had some plugins on the side. But then over time started getting more requests from clients like, oh, like the first tool I released was Pro.io, then Sun AE scripts. And so people would say like, oh, Pro.io is awesome. Could we have something similar, but could it like do this or do that? Or like, oh, we did it, but specifically for our company. So a couple of these requests in, I was like, you know what, let me just start like an LLC. It's not too expensive. And then if I want to like make a little website and then just kind of put that on the side. And eventually, if I want to pursue that, I can. And then, yeah, eventually did, quit working full time in video production and fall all in Hyperbrew now. So, yeah.
Okay. Nice. I'm assuming that bolt-cep, did you create that yourself as like an in-house tool first to get started, and then kind of what was your idea on bringing
Right.
in React tooling, which is amazing.
Yeah, yeah. So I had gone through like several iterations of a sort of like build system or templating tool basically for building panels. Because like after you build like 10 panels or something, you're like, okay, the configuration is a total, nightmare and stuff. Like no one wants to be setting up the same settings again and again. And then also, packages are constantly evolving. There's new versions of React or Svelte or Vue or whatever. You want to use the latest and greatest, but you still want to be compatible with Adobe and that sort of thing. So that was something that definitely was, I was first building for myself at the jobs I was working on at the time and stuff, and then eventually it was solid enough where I started asking people to test it out, and then I was like, you know what, let me open source this and see if it goes anywhere. And so it was, only a handful of users at first, but over time it's grown, and I mean now have people at like teams at Google and NFL and even Adobe are using
Oh, no way.
bolt-cep, which is pretty awesome to see. Yeah, so it's
Yeah, no, it's super useful. I
pretty
mean, I
exciting.
literally
Yeah.
tried to build my extension like a
Hmm.
few times, and
Yeah.
yeah, I literally couldn't get the extension to like load up in Premiere until I started
Yeah.
on bolt-cep, which is just insanely easy to start up. Um,
Yeah, it's just that's what it's geared for. It's just like, you know what? The configuration process is such a pain. And there's so many little checkboxes and files need to be just in the right place, and folder structure needs to be just right. And especially for starting out, it's like it's so much to just get to like building a button that you click to then do a thing. You want to focus on the actual workflow. You don't want to have to spend hours and days, making sure your configuration settings are just right.
yeah.
So yeah, it's been a huge help for myself, and I've had some great since I open sourced it, had some great input from the community, people opening PRs and adding some really cool features to it, which has been super cool to see as well. Yeah.
Just kind of like a business question. So,
Yeah.
basically my extension, it's called Simple YouTube Downloader, and
Hmm.
it's really simple. It's just you take a YouTube link, open the panel, paste the link, download the video,
Yeah.
goes directly into your timeline.
Hmm.
Um, so right now I sell it for just like $10, and it's just on the Creative Cloud store. Like, let's say I
Yeah.
wanted to license that out. I don't know, is that something that you do for your extensions? Do you license them, or is it just like they buy it once? I'm just curious, like, I don't know how I can maximize
Sure.
it.
Yeah. The whole kind of discussion about like whether you do a pay it once or a subscription model or the kind of hybrid, which is like you buy it today and then you have support for like a year, and then if you want to buy it again or something like that. So far, I mean, I've just done like we just have one tool for sale, Pro.io, and then we have version Raptor and Clutch GPT, and those are pay what you want. So most people just download it for free, which is exactly what it's there for. A few people throw a couple dollars here and there, and that's nice to see as well. But yeah, I mean, I think um, there's people, with opinions on both ways, whether it should be a pay once or pay subscription. Some projects definitely lend themselves more to subscription. If it's something you have to constantly update for whatever reason, or the nature of it, like is constantly requiring something to be changed, then I think a subscription makes a little more sense. But yeah, that's kind of, up to the developer for sure.
Do you
What
do
works for you.
commercial licenses, like like individual versus like a business if you're selling to?
That's a good question. Not currently. Right now, we just kind of have like one normal license just for Pro.io, and then the other tools are just kind of pay what you want. So you can get it for free
Okay,
or pay for it if you want. However, like most of products aren't really our main focus. Our main focus is custom Adobe plugins, actually. So that's just custom stuff for clients. So a lot of companies will come to us and be like, okay, we need this, very specific Premiere Pro plugin that does X, Y, and Z. Pulls data from these sources in our company and then outputs these types of files. So we'll build like a super custom After Effects or Premiere Pro or Photoshop plugin that does just that thing for them.
oh,
So
okay, I see, I see.
that's the majority of our business. And then the tools, the public tools are kind of like an extra thing, and the open source stuff is stuff that I love to do whenever we can open source things. And sometimes like there's like kind of overlap as well, which is cool. Like there was the Bolt UXP, which is our recent project that we released, which is the Bolt CEP equivalent for Photoshop and InDesign UXP panels. And AE Scripts actually funded that one because it was like a project for them that they paid for to have, the UXP framework built their special AE Scripts one. But I was like, hey, we could build the whole groundwork on our own framework and then just build your guys' stuff on top of that. And then that way
That's
you can
really cool.
reap all the benefits of open source in the future and everything. And so Lloyd at AEscripts was stoked about the idea. So that was super cool. So we got to do a client project, which then the rewards everyone gets to benefit from. Bolt UXP is free and open source. Anyone can download it and use it today for building UXP plugins. So sometimes it's cool to see like projects work both ways for sure. But
That makes sense. Do you work very closely with Lloyd then at AE Scripts?
yeah,
What's the
I've
relationship
worked
like
I've
there?
worked in a lot of capacities for sure. Like early days, like I was submitting Pro.io, as like as a plugin author, and so he was excited about the tool and happy to host it and stuff. So we released Pro.io through him. But then since then, we've actually had AE Scripts also as like our client as well. So we've that UXP framework was one of the projects, and we're going to be releasing a case study here on the site pretty soon about the whole thing. But that was one of the projects that was they needed to have their own proprietary licensing framework, so that people can go on AEscripts and buy the license and then use the key and then plug it into their AEscripts tool, and it has their own proprietary backend on how that whole licensing system works. They just needed a version of that. They had one for the C++ and one for the JavaScript CEP panels, but they need one for UXP. So we built that for them. So yeah, we've had a relationship in different ways, I guess, for sure. So.
How do you have time for all of this? Like, I'm just amazed. Like, I'll just throw a question in the Discord, and I'm just like, how is Justin always online
Oh
to all
man,
this?
I like to get back for sure. I mean, there's been it's this community is very unique. I'll say that. I got like before when I was starting out, I was just kind of solo developer, and that was a hard path for sure. I tried to listen to podcasts, tried to watch a ton of YouTube tutorials, tried to do all that stuff. But I mean, if you're in a company with just people who aren't doing what you're doing, then it can be challenging to learn. But actually, it was at NAB, or sorry, not NAB, at SIGGRAPH in LA. I want to say I forget which year, but it was a while back. But I met Zach Lovett. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Zach, but he builds like Flow for After Effects and Explode shape layers and a bunch of other really well-known tools and stuff. And so he's huge in the community and great guy. Introduced me to like a bunch of the Slack channels at the time. Now a lot of those are Discord, but yeah, got me plugged into like this, super niche group of After Effects and Premiere Pro plugin developers scattered across the world, but we're all doing the same thing. We're like, hey, someone else also does what I'm doing, so that,
Yeah,
so I really appreciated that. I appreciated people's openness, willing to help, and now that I'm, have the experience and able to help others who are starting out, and I'm happy to do that and stuff for sure. So
definitely emphasis on niche. I was on
yeah.
a I was on one of the forums, just like the Adobe forum, like the developer forum,
Mhm.
and I was looking for an answer, and then there's just you answering the question. I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
the
I'm
small
mostly in
world.
the Discord these days, but sometimes I'll pop around to the Adobe forums or UXP forums. There's a lot of them for sure. But yeah.
Another question. Right now, what are some of your favorite new technologies that are coming out, or just I don't know, favorite tools or cool stuff that you
Totally,
have your
totally.
eye on?
Yeah, I think like in the world, like I'm mostly interested in stuff that relates to video production because that's kind of like my niche, like where tech and video kind of overlap and stuff. So like all the text-based editing stuff and like Premiere, like that was really cool to see. I think the technology originally came from Descript, or at least they were one of the first people to introduce it. And now it's in Premiere and it's also I think in Resolve as in their latest version and stuff. But that was pretty wild. I was like, dang, what a new take on how to edit something, just looking at the words and shuffling them around. I back when I was editing like, short documentaries, I'm like, dang, I would have I could
Wait,
have
what
really
was it called,
benefited
sorry?
from that. Text-based editing. So it's like where you can transcribe your entire timeline and then you just like edit the words. So you like shuffle words around instead of actually shuffling like clips on the timeline.
Oh, no way.
So yeah, it's like I want to say it was in this app called Descript, which is like a web app. And then I think Premiere introduced it maybe a year ago, maybe a little longer ago. And then I'm pretty sure just at NAB this year, Resolve also added it. So it's kind of like just a new way to edit and opens up a bunch of different possibilities.
Oh, is it
Um,
like an LLM thing? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Is it like a
so it let's see here, is it LM? Not directly, I don't think. But it's kind of like you can transcribe your video. So it's like converts, it identifies the words everyone's saying and puts it into a transcript. And now you just have like a Word document. So then you can be like, oh, I want to like move this word down here or that word up here. And you can just kind of edit and see the text instead of like, and then the clips will just kind of like automatically like edit for you and stuff as you're going,
Okay,
which is kind of interesting. Um,
that's cool.
so, um, so yeah, that was interesting. I definitely like seeing, competitors to like After Effects that are, making strides in new kind of ways. Like Cavalry was a new app that came out a little while back, and I don't know how many people are using it today, but I still love seeing the updates. They seem like a small, really passionate team and are adding some really cool features for the motion design space and stuff. So that's a super cool one to stay up to date with. And Rive has been, making waves recently. I'm not sure if you've been seeing their stuff, but it's just like a new way to animate and, a way that you can animate your stuff and then have it, not only play back in web browsers, but like also have it be like interactive and it's just kind of like a new approach to building UIs and stuff. I love seeing stuff like that. That's just kind of like rethinking the problem and the solution. I guess is really interesting to me.
I'll have to check those out. I think I've seen Arrive maybe on Twitter, or it might have been. Yeah, I'm not sure, but
Yeah, I want to say the last like 6 months, it's
yeah,
been like every day I'm seeing new stuff on Twitter about it. They're like, you can do this with Rive, you can do that with Rive. I haven't like fiddled with it a ton myself, but the things that I have tested with it, I'm like, oh,
I don't know. I have not seen
this is
this.
pretty nifty. But yeah,
Are you a
definitely worth
Mac
checking out.
or a Mac or Windows user,
Mac or
or
Windows.
Linux?
Yeah, I've gone back and forth over the years. Currently, I'm on PC most of the time. I have a Mac, of course, because I need to build and test on Mac all the time for sure. But I just find most things are easier on PC. But I mean, Mac user experience is definitely better. I'll say that for
Yeah,
sure. So
I've been
that's
getting
one thing I
into
miss. But
Raycast and Arc browser on
oh
Mac.
yeah, okay,
So
nice.
just
Yeah,
like
I've
the
seen
most.
Raycast, and I was sad that it wasn't compatible on PC, and I was like, oh, that's something that needs to happen.
But yeah, that's
And
also something I was wondering about if
yeah,
they had like a Raycast for PC, but
I want to say
um,
there's some equivalents, but I don't think they're as clean or as good. Um, but um, but yeah, that's definitely looks like a really neat tool if that's your primary OS for sure.
and then do you have any tips for newer developers? I'm sure there are gonna be a lot of developers. Well, I don't want to say a lot of developers.
Yeah,
I'm sure some developers will see this. Will see this. Do you have any tips for newer developers?
totally, totally. Yeah, I think one thing that I think is really um really keeps the creative juices flowing and like helps you like learn things really fast is just doing like dev sprints, so like if you have an idea, like don't sit on it for too long, don't let it stagnate, like just be like just try to build it if you have time. If you're like, oh, I have this cool idea, and if you have like a couple days to spare or a few hours after work or whatever, or a weekend that's free, like just like try to hack that thing together and see if you can get like a working prototype, in a couple hours or a couple days or whatever. um, the sooner you can kind of get to something that like sort of works, the sooner then like you get excited about it, you can start to see the result, and then you can start showing people and being like, hey, check out this thing I built, or like, oh, what do you think about this? And then they can give you cool ideas, and then a week or two later, you can go back and like clean it up and make the code actually, you know, readable and make the UI do what you want it to do and stuff. But yeah, definitely, I love that's how some of the best projects that I worked on have come to life. It's just been like, okay, don't sit on it too long. Just like try to just build it. Just doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to work perfectly, but just get something that kind of works, and then you can iterate on it over time. But
Yeah,
yeah.
that's such a great approach. Um, yeah, definitely for simple YouTube downloader. It did not 100% work when I released it to the Creative Cloud store.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, where can people find you and find Hyperbrew and learn more if they're interested?
Totally, yeah. So hyperbrew.co is the website. So you can find out more about us, our free tools, paid tools, and also check out our client projects. Like I said, custom Adobe plugins for video teams is our focus. So if you work with or manage a video team and you're interested in plugins, let us know. We'd love to work with you. But and then also, yeah, if you're a developer, we have open source resources on there like bolt-cep and bolt-uxp, and our Discord. We've got over 250 devs in there now, sharing knowledge and chatting about tips and tricks and all that good stuff. So yeah, I'd love to have you join join the group and stuff for sure.
Definitely recommend everyone join the Discord.
Yeah.
And yeah, check out all the great tooling. Thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.